Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Johnny Mac versus Dr. Death. Also, the V-Team takes a look at new lottery polling. And Mary Scott Hunter came gunning for Dr. Pouncey.
So frankly, I'm leaning in another direction entirely.
Give me mercy.
There's about 3 things I'd rather give you, and they're all in the chamber of this gun. Straight up, or with some flair. Straight up, or flair.
Man, that's hardcore. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Hello.
Glad to be here.
Nice to have Lady Gaga with us today.
Well, and you know, I saw a guy loading animals 2 by 2, and then somebody said it couldn't be. We're in Montgomery. Dirty. Nobody's that pious.
Exactly. No, but with the rain we've had this week, oh my God.
Yeah, you could float the ark in my backyard.
You know, we have all, in our years in politics and covering stories, seen some pretty bizarre things. But the State Board of Education meeting this last week, I mean, Jack, it was bizarre beyond imagination that they had gone to such lengths to destroy Craig Pouncey, and the truth came out, and it is an ugly truth, isn't it?
Well, as Mammy said in Gone with the Wind, I done told you and I done told you. And I'm telling you again, Mary Scott Hunter is a bad actor, and after the shenanigans she pulled, assassinating the character of Dr. Craig Pouncey is, as Claire would say, egregious. It's beyond the pale, and she ought to resign. If not, have criminal charges filed against her.
Or both.
Or both.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's her good friend.
Yeah, she said she loved Craig Pouncey.
He was dear to her.
Yeah. I mean, and what happened is they showed clearly from an internal investigation that Mary Scott Hunter, former interim superintendent, Dr. Cleveland, Juliana Dean, and other attorneys with the office conspired to destroy Craig Pouncey.
They did. The report came out this week. Michael Meyer was the one that gave the report based on emails. I think there were some 250 emails involved showing a conspiracy to try to smear Craig Pouncey before they could vote on the new superintendent this last year.
And Josh, you know, they wanted to keep this all behind closed doors until we produced the document the day that they wanted to have the closed door meeting.
Yeah, and pointed that out during the meeting that they would have gone into executive session if not for us releasing that report and making it public, and therefore erasing that little exception to the open meetings rule. You know, you didn't need the emails though. You didn't need the emails. It's nice to have them. It's nice to have the report and somebody to compile it down. But common sense told everyone from the beginning that this was something to smear Pouncey. I mean, you had from the setup from the very beginning with Juliana Dean and Mary Hunter calling Michael Sinnott, who had backed out of this race for superintendent, asking him to resubmit his name and after the deadline to apply. You know, just through the entire thing, to the spreading of it down at the BCA retreat about the ethics problems.
And the anonymous letter.
Yeah, the anonymous letter that came out, and it was then transferred to the Ethics Commission, and she leaned on the Ethics Commission, Mary Scott Hunter did, to get them to accept the letter when they don't accept anonymous complaints. And there were so many oddities and so many screwball things that took place. No one needed all of this stuff to know that this was a smear job and it was actually an absolute screw job on Craig Pouncey.
In fact, she leaned on him so hard that Hugh Evans came back and said, yes, we have accepted this letter about Craig Pouncey. Now, they never name, they're not supposed to name who they're looking at or anything like that, but that's how hard they were leaning on them.
Well, and they should not have ever gone down that road. I'm not sure why the Ethics Commission even acknowledged this. It's outside of their purview, and it was outside of the statute of limitations.
Yes.
If there'd have been anything to it. And there wasn't, Jack. I mean, you know, I don't believe for a minute that Mary Scott Hunter and Juliana Dean and Philip Cleveland came up with this scheme. I think this scheme goes much further back. I would almost bet that it goes back to BCA and Terry Collins and some of that. Remember, we broke this story a year ago, Jack. And
They're bad actors too. BCA and Terry Collins, who I heard the other day, and I was delighted, may not run again. This is absolute. When you assassinate somebody's character, who has been a career employee with whom people had immense respect, this is absolute. I mean, I can't imagine it.
You know
and
what?
I really feel sorry for him. And I hope he sucks that department dry of money in his civil trial.
You know, one of the things to me that shows that this was indeed a smear campaign is that there was never a follow-up with the Ethics Commission to see how the investigation was going. Once sentence was granted or voted in as superintendent, they dropped the whole thing. It was never spoken of again. So if they were really serious that this was something that was real, why didn't they follow up with the Ethics
Well,
Commission?
and once they had you're right. And once they had the evidence that he had done nothing wrong, they didn't tell anybody.
Well,
right,
they knew they had the evidence that he didn't do anything wrong before the vote. That before
That's right,
while
Josh,
this
that's
was going
exactly
on,
right.
they had everyone involved in this thing. Pouncey got in touch with everyone that was part of that dissertation team, which is that was the allegation was that he had misused resources on his dissertation for his doctorate at Samford. These people had contacted them of their own free will and said, no, that's not right, and still they went forward with it.
Right, and we published all those.
Yes.
I mean, we published them a year ago before the vote that cleared him. But Jack, they had to have.
They had to have their boy in there for some reason. Sentence withdrew his name. Let's remind the viewers, he withdrew his name from consideration. Gets a call from Juliana Dean and says, no, put your name back in. So he resubmits his name, and they hire the guy outside of the deadline.
Now, remember also, Jack, that he had placed his resume all over the country for this same type of position and was turned down.
Nobody
11
hired him
other
because he
places.
wasn't qualified.
Well,
Right.
You know, and he's not qualified, which is why in every meeting that they're at, they always start with Mr. Sentence. You know, and because it's such an oddity to have as your superintendent someone who's not a PhD.
Well, maybe-
has not earned a
And
PhD.
he's an attorney, right?
Well, maybe Sentence will face a sentence like maybe some of these
Well,
other people.
and I hate to
You know-
bring it up, but he just lied through his teeth yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Or not, whenever it was,
If
Wednesday.
you watch that video, it is like a three-ring circus.
And Mary Scott Hunter, bless her heart, as my mother would say, she came across petty, small,
Whiny.
and really, she wants to be lieutenant governor. She shouldn't be a dog
She won't
catcher.
be after this deal
Yes,
broke.
she was just this side of turning on the tears for everybody of how she was being persecuted. The whole time I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, weren't you just the one that persecuted Pouncey?
Yeah,
So
it
did
was-
Leona Helmsley, you know?
Oh, it was.
It was a pretty awful display, and I, you know, to this point in her political career, she still has no idea how to judge the temperature of a room, and the things that she was saying that were not playing well with anybody else. I mean, even people who were supporting her were, you know, when she continued to repeat, "Oh, my good friend Craig Pouncey, and I really care about him, and I was deeply hurt by what happened to him." Well, at the same time, everybody in that room knew that she had spread this stuff around.
That's
Ellen
right.
Bell called her down several times.
Yeah.
Well,
And, I
we're
mean,
going to have
there
to
was
leave it right
several.
there. Nothing like calling someone a friend and stabbing them in the back at the same time. That's our Mary Scott. She is a hunter, you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
all right.
absolutely.
You're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and analysis. back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Jim Ziegler, surprising to the world at large, has announced that he has an exploratory committee to run for governor. Explore this, Jack.
Well, Jim is a caricature of himself. And however, he calls them as he sees them. If he would get rid of the bad ties, I think he might be a serious contender. He takes issue with me.
I can't. What did you know?
Well, you're no Ty Hawkins. So
Exactly. I don't understand what your problem with his very patriotic ties
and
are.
the fact that there are people who take pictures of them and tweet them out while they're talking to them.
Well, you know, and
don't
look,
sell him short, though. I'll say that.
No. And the thing is about Ziegler is he does. He's been right more than all
He
the rest of
has.
these jokers, mainly because he takes our stories and files lawsuits about them. But I mean, you know, hey, that's a lot of people do that kind of stuff. But really, I mean, he's outrageous. He's over the top, and guess what? That's selling right now.
Yeah, in the White House. You know, Jim Ziegler, I wanted to dislike Jim Ziegler. I did. I mean, because he's crazy. He is, but...
And a Republican. That's
and a Republican, that also helps. But at the same time, he's an honest guy. Yep. He tells you what he's going to do. He makes no bones about loving a camera and loving an interview and loving to see his name in print. And he goes after people for misusing state resources, which we could probably use a little bit more of. And so, God bless you, Jim Ziegler. Although I would love to know who's on this exploratory committee.
Well, I just wonder if he's got like a pith helmet that says waist cutter over the top. What do you think? I mean, because
Well,
that's...
when he ran for
He's-
PSC, he was the watchdog, and he carried a dog around with him everywhere he went. So
He's the only person I know that could carry that off.
he's gimmicky, but he's effective.
And he is honest, and
Yes.
he, listen, I like Jim. I think he's a great guy. It'll just be interesting to see. I mean, guys like this can surprise you. They
Well,
really
it's going to be a
can.
lot more exciting than this Senate race, apparently.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Senate race is pretty bad. We'll get to that in a second. I want to talk about a race that is going to be interesting. Johnny McMorrow, a very conservative Democrat, but no less a Democrat from the Shoals area, is running against a doctor that I affectionately like to call Dr. Death.
Among other things I like to call him.
Dr. Stutz, who actually, when he came to office, Susan, first thing he tried to do is overturn a law that was passed because of one of his patients died, and also tried to overturn another law about mammograms because the former senator up in that area, his wife, had breast cancer
Yes.
and lost her breast due to
Yes.
that. And he thought those were intrusive on doctors.
He really did, and I got to tell you, the women of Alabama thought he was intrusive on Alabama, and still do. What he wanted to do was, after a woman gives birth, basically once the woman pops the baby out, the doctor can send her home. Well, what happened was he had let a patient go who had to keep coming back to the hospital after giving birth. He failed to run a $5 test on this woman, and it ended up in her death. In fact, we had her daughter on the show. The father of the daughter took her, registered her as a lobbyist, and lobbied the State House to get the law put in place where they have to keep a woman at least 48 hours.
Right. Well, I mean, those are all the allegations against him, and it's absolutely factual that she died. And now, Johnny Mack, do you think, I mean, is there any way Johnny Mack stands a chance of winning in that area?
I don't know what the demographics are, but, you know, the Republicans have really done such a poor job since taking over in 2010 in that election. I mean, you know, there may be a chance for somebody like a Johnny Mack Morrow, who's a well-known person, to beat some of these incumbent Republicans who,
And
quite
you know,
frankly, have dropped the ball.
Well, and you know, to call Johnny McMorrow a liberal, you know, I mean, that's like calling the Washington Monument was kind of short for its size. You know? I mean,
I'm a liberal. Johnny McMorrow is not necessarily a liberal. I mean, and I like Johnny Mack. I think he's a very good guy, and I think he does have a chance there because I don't think there's a lot of respect for the reasons that you mentioned for Larry Stutz there. And I mean, you know, the laws that he pulled, I don't know how what type of a person does that. I don't know what type of person does that at all, and I don't want them anywhere near government.
No, as I said at the time, we knew that Stutt was basically incompetent. But now we know he's evil.
Yeah,
And I still
even
believe
his
he's
fellow
evil.
Republicans came out against him on that and were kind of horrified by what he did.
He snookered a bunch
Yes,
of
he
them into
did.
co-sponsoring that bill without notifying.
Yeah.
They found out after that you can't co-sponsor a bill, Jack. They were like, how do we get out of this? We can't.
Yeah, you just got to kill it.
But
No, you
I
just
have
kill
to
it.
say for Johnny Mac, and you and I both worked with him a lot during this last session. He's somebody that's a serious representative. He
Yeah.
goes in there and he works. He worked with the sheriffs over the prison overcrowding thing this
And
time.
his
I mean, he
attire
really
is
works.
almost as colorful as Jim Ziegler's.
Oh, good.
Yeah, he's got some great ties.
Yes,
he
he
really
does.
The
does.
jackets are even
Well,
better.
Jack brought something up. We got about 2 minutes left here. These debates that have been going on around the state, you get 4 or 5 candidates. Guess who doesn't show up, right, Jack?
The incumbent, unelected Luther Strange.
It's a strange duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he just is not coming
Maybe
to
it's
the...
just too much rain down here for him.
Well, he says he's busy in the Senate.
Well, he put on his high waders. He's about 7 feet tall. Shouldn't be an issue.
I mean, I guess that's a political strategy, right, Josh? Just don't do anything. Let the ads do
You
their
don't want
work.
to face the tough questions.
Yeah, because he's got some really great ads of him firing a gun at a target with Obama's name on it right after we've had a shooting in Washington.
Right.
I don't understand. He's not going to show up for these because he doesn't have any position. He doesn't have any thought on anything. He's one of the worst candidates that's ever run.
Which makes me question if he's going to show up for Alabama. Is he just going to be another one of these that goes to D.C. and doesn't listen, as our representative doesn't listen to what we have to say?
Well, I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no, please.
I think this gives people an opportunity to take a more serious look at Mo Brooks. I don't always agree with Mo. He's a little right of Attila the Hun, but Mo is a serious contender in this climate. I mean, people don't believe Luther got there in an honest manner.
Yeah.
Nobody you ask believes that.
Whether
Well,
it is or not, it's still tainted.
And we've invited all the candidates, I think, not all of them, but we've invited the top tier candidates to come on our show. So far, only Mo Brooks has accepted. He will be on next
No,
week.
week after that.
Week after
First
that,
week in
okay.
July.
First week in July.
Roy Moore is coming on my radio show.
Yeah, but I heard he
The
wouldn't
day
be-
that I couldn't
that
be
you're
there.
not there. Well, imagine that, Jack. You've been,
Can't imagine
been
why.
such a supporter over the years.
So sad.
Well, we only got a couple of seconds left here, but yeah, he's coming on. We've invited Luther Strange. We've invited a couple of the other top tier candidates. We are hoping to get involved in a debate. We don't know if that'll happen or not, but we're working on it, and we won't ask them stupid questions. We'll ask them honest questions.
Real questions that
Real
are thought
questions.
through?
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe.
Oh, wow.
We'll get somebody to ghostwrite them. All right, you're watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. It's some of the things that happen off camera just leave me baffled and amazed.
Yeah, we can charge for that.
Yeah, sure. But then your reputation would be worse than it is now. I know mine would
That'd
be.
be pretty tough.
Yeah, mine would be. You know, there was a poll conducted in the 1st of June that polled only Republican primary voters. And it asked the question, would they support a lottery in the state of Alabama? Voting on a lottery in the state of Alabama, would they support it? And they said yes. Over 60% said yes, they would support it. But surprisingly, Jack, these primary voters said they wanted it to go to the general fund and pay for things like, Medicaid and, all that stuff that's in the general fund. Not to education.
I'm not surprised. And I don't know why the GOP leadership for the last 20 years has had an aversion to gambling. Because I don't believe, and I never believed, that the rank and file people of this state give a damn one way or the other about a lottery. Because a lot of them are going across the state line to get tickets, or when they know they got a buddy over there, oh, here's $20, get me some tickets. I mean, I'm sorry.
I don't get it, Susan. I mean, you know, you have a lot of hardcore right that say they don't want it, but it doesn't matter what they want. Mm-hmm. What matters is what the people want. We are not controlled by the likes of those who don't want gaming or those who do.
And that's what baffles me, and it baffles so many people. It's not like the right or the left or anybody has to make a decision on whether we have a lottery or not. All they have to do is send it out for the voters to tell them what they want, but they still refuse to do that.
Yeah, I'm not a gambler. You know, I can see where there's some moral problems with it. I can see with ethical, not necessarily moral. But Josh, since when do we have to have this nanny state? Can't we just once and for all throw off the shackles or something?
Yeah, you know, you get into the moral arguments, but they're more of an excuse than anything else. Most often, it kind of comes down to a political reason of why they don't want this. That, you know, the gambling has been outlawed or you know, they've left gambling off the table and they've crushed electronic bingo around in a bunch of different places because that was a way to hurt Democrats, basically. Right. And you know, and now you have the lottery that could come in. You know, I'm thinking a lot of people don't want that from the other side of this because of the things it could mean for the Poarch Creek Indians. You know, and I think that played a big role in the lottery's success or failure in the last session was because of the things that could mean for the Poarch Creek Indians. And I think some people see that as unfair because they have been given a pretty big advantage in the state over the last several years.
Sure.
And I think some people are trying to cut that off here, right or wrong. And I think all of it, like you said, is wrong because you're not allowing the people to vote on what they want.
I mean, we already have gambling. The Poarch Creek have a $1 billion industry, basically all to themselves, and nothing can be done about it. No. And yet they're going to play. They're already playing heavy in politics. Saw a picture, Jack, that came back from D.C. and Luther Strange, standing there with the lobbyists from the Poarch Creek Indians and one of your favorite, Mike Ball. He was there with them too.
Good old Mikey.
Mike, and they, you know, you had the only person that was missing was Robbie McGee. They had the triumvirate, but they were missing the head, which was Allison Kenny, Philip Kenny.
Right.
You know, these guys, hardball lobbyists for the Poarch Creek.
Yeah, we have the gambling. What we don't have are the taxes that return from that gambling that pay for the things that everyone complains that gambling brings, the addiction problems, the other things like that. I mean, I think a lot of it is overstated to make a point, but still, we know that those things exist. What we're not getting out of any of that are tax money, since the Poarch Creeks pay no money. We don't get any of it.
And speaking of taxes, I mean, these Republicans are not going to raise taxes. The people in Alabama don't want taxes raised in general. And we have a broken general fund, folks.
What's the estimation a lottery will bring, like $200 or $300 million?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Conservatively.
Profit. That's conservative.
Conservatively.
Yeah.
Well, let's be conservative. That's still a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, it is.
You
It
know,
should go.
I'm not going to go sit in a bingo place, watch people, you know, doing this, smoking their cigarettes, and all that stuff. I'm just not going to do it. But that doesn't mean other people don't love it. And let them do it.
Yeah.
But let them do it outside of an Indian casino and leave them the hell alone. And also, let's have a lottery so folks like me might want to wager $20 a week or $10 a week on a ridiculous chance to win.
Just for
Still
fun.
fun.
You know, we have our place up in Attala, outside of Attala. I mean, which is really, I consider the heart of Alabama, because that's all there is. There's heart, baby. There's no jobs, nothing else.
Nothing else.
But there's a convenience store there, and it's just chock full of people all the time. And every time I walk in the door, the owner and the people in there go, "When are we going to get a lottery?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. And the people are like, why can't we have, I mean, people get mad at me.
Yeah.
They know I'm in Montgomery. I don't have anything to do with it.
I get emails every day like that. I mean, or why can't we have this, or why can't we have that? I'm like, look, man, I'd love for you to have it, you know?
Our neighbors coming up and go, well, fine, y'all didn't pass the lottery, so we'll just keep going to Georgia. I'm like, hey, wait a minute here.
I don't have a vote.
Look, but some of that money So if we do pass something, some of it has got to go to education.
I agree.
We are trailing a lot of states in being able to, Tennessee this past week made community college
And
free
listen,
for everybody.
I didn't mean to beat this dead. This was not to be the whole segment, but you think about it. If they really took the Birmingham and let that develop into an entertainment mecca,
Yes.
where you had gaming and you had sports and you had all that, which it's primed to do.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, if you take the politics, people going up to prison out and the
Well,
sewer board, then it might be a good venue.
Well, you have more money to build prisons, hey, but think about it. If you were, Atlanta, if it, we could have a real community. Not a community, but a real city that people want to come to, do stuff. I've talked to several people who said, look, if they had lottery and all that provided us, I don't gamble, but if it provided us with a venue where we could go see boxing or maybe Major League Sports or something like this, pass it back.
Another destination somewhere in the middle of the state besides the coast.
And I'm going to see if there's a Republican candidate for governor out there who has the huevos to say, I support a lottery or I support casino gambling. That's going to make me feel those people more attractive for my vote.
Yeah, and
I'm not some kooky gambler, but I think we ought to give people choices.
I'm sick of watching the legislature every year have to struggle with these budgets and struggle and watch people get cut off of things that they depend on because we don't have enough money.
And my point of view is let's pass the lottery, let's get gaming legal where it needs to be, and let's stop the Porch Creek from owning the state. They can own their portion of it.
Yeah.
But really, I think if you went to the Porch Creek or you went to Milton McGregor, any of these people, they would say, pass the law so we can't give money.
Yeah, listen, I think that there is room for everyone to operate here, as they do in other states. We're not alone. We're not inventing gambling here, okay? It's legal in a lot of places all around us.
And maybe a little cigarette tax.
You can tax them, baby, tax it. Anyway, we're gonna, right. Finish your thought.
No, I'm saying it. You have. There is an opportunity here to bring money in for things that people are already doing here and allow everyone to survive and get by.
I want Alabama to prosper. Listen, it might not be the best way to finance government, but the way we're financing it now doesn't work. We want to thank you for watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.